Chapter 27. Jeff Makes His Move. Corey pedaled into the gravel driveway after a successful morning of work in the Barrens. He hadn't collected any seed, but he did find a small stand of compass plant. This would be exciting news to tell Bill, and Corey couldn't wait to mail in his field notes. He even considered calling him to tell him the good news. Rosa, the 68-year-old mail carrier, pulled her car up to the mailbox. Corey admired how well she could drive from the passenger side of the car. She steered with her left hand and controlled the brakes and gas with her left foot. She put a large collection of envelopes into the box and drove off. Corey put the bike in the barn and walked out to the road to bring in the mail. With a rusty squeak, the mailbox door opened and he grabbed the handful of bills and catalogs. Sorting through the stack on his way to the house, he found the letter from Jeff. At first, he didn't even want to touch it, almost as if it were radioactive. Sure that Ellen would be upset if she saw it, he stuffed it in his shirt. Corey dropped the mail on the table, yelled, "Hello," and went upstairs. "Hey, Corey, I'm heading to town to do some shopping. I'd like you to come with me," Ellen called from the living room. "Okay," he called back. Corey stashed the letter under his pillow and headed down to join Ellen on her shopping trip. "There's a back-to-school sale going on. I thought we could get an early start at getting you some school clothes." Ordinarily, talk of school starting again would have ruined Corey's day, but he was thinking too much about the letter. So he made no protest as they stopped at 3 stores and he tried on at least 10 pairs of jeans. They arrived home just as Ben was returning from work. "I've got a great idea. Let's go out for pizza," Ben said. "Good idea," Ellen said eagerly. "We've been gone all day and I don't have a thing ready yet." They went inside just long enough to drop off the packages and get cleaned up. The letter would have to wait until later that evening when he went to bed. Lying in bed, Corey looked at the sealed envelope. Maybe, he thought, he should just throw it out. Maybe he should tell Ben. He'd know what to do. Corey took a deep breath and opened the envelope. "Cor, your long wait is over. By the time you read this, I'll be on my way to pick you up. Don't worry about your foster parents. If they try to stop us, they'll be sorry. I don't want to hurt anyone, but after what they've done to you, it would serve them right. Pack your things and wait for me. When you see me pull into the driveway, run to the car. Too many people have been telling the Nelsons how to live their lives. Now it's time for you and me to show the world that we can't be pushed around anymore. Signed, Uncle Jeff." Corey had never known such fear. He was paralyzed by the thought of Uncle Jeff coming to the house. Ben and Ellen would never let Jeff take him, and they would likely get hurt, or worse. There was no way he could let them suffer. He'd caused them far too much pain the way it was. Corey struggled to listen to logic, but all he heard was, "Run!" Corey thought back to the short time he had been living with Jeff. He could not stop thinking about the one violent outburst he witnessed. Jeff smashed a chair, threw a beer bottle against the wall, and kicked a small aquarium. As water flowed over the freshly broken glass, Jeff turned to Judy and threatened to hit her. She ran from the house screaming. Corey tried again to use logic, but emotions won out. If you love them, run! He had no way of knowing when Jeff would come. Maybe he was on his way this very minute. Hours had already passed since the mail had been delivered. Maybe Corey could think more clearly once he got away. He had no idea where he would go, but he knew he couldn't stay here. With minutes passing like hours, Corey waited until Ben and Ellen went to bed, and then waited a half hour after that. He stuffed some clothes into his backpack, made his bed, and slipped out the kitchen door. Ponch was at his side before the screen door quietly closed. "Please don't bark," he whispered to his good friend. The barn door was open just enough for him to get his bike out. The darkness of the farmyard made seeing potholes difficult. By the time he was on the main road, his eyes adjusted to the darkness, and the light from the gibbous moon made riding a little easier. He pedaled as fast as he could in the limited light, almost hitting a doe that was standing in the middle of the road. He reached the large wooden sign for the Barrens faster than he had ever done before. Stepping off his bike, he said aloud, "Now what am I going to do?" Reality began to set in. He had left the farmhouse for the last time. He would never see Ben or Ellen again. It was the only way to keep them safe. He looked at the bike. It wouldn't be right to take it with him. He'd leave it here so they could find it. He was in such a rush to get out of the house that he hadn't thought to leave a note. He pulled his field notebook and a pencil out of his pack and began to write. "Dear Ben and Ellen, by now you know that I've left. I hope you understand that I had no choice. Jeff said he was coming to get me and he would hurt you if you tried to stop him. I couldn't let that happen. You have been the best thing to happen to me in a long time, and I will love you forever. Please don't worry about me. I'll be okay. Love, Corey." Corey wedged the note between the brake cable and the handlebar, propped the bike up carefully against the sign, and walked off into the darkness of the Barrens. He would spend the night there and then decide where to go in the morning. Maybe he would head north to find Tony Whitehorse. 30 minutes later, Corey was sitting on the outer edge of his favorite stand of oaks. From here, he could look out over the Barrens at night. It was a sight he had never seen before. The closest he had come was the night last spring when he'd sat in the prairie chicken blind with Wendy and Steve. The Milky Way was stretching from horizon to horizon, and the frogs were calling in the distance. Fireflies were flashing in the field, and bats were doing acrobatics over his head. Corey missed all this. His mind was busy thinking about what he had just done. A wave of doubt hit him. Should he have told Ben and Ellen? Should he have called the police? Too late for second-guessing now. He was here, and he couldn't go back. He settled in under an oak and waited until sunrise. Ellen ran out of Corey's room. "Ben!" she shouted. Ben came running from the bathroom with shaving cream still on half his face. "Corey's not here, and it looks like he hasn't been here all night." "I'll look outside," Ben said. "Maybe he decided to camp in the yard." He headed back downstairs, but before he got out the door, Ellen shouted again. "Ben, call the sheriff!" She flew down the stairs with Jeff's crumpled-up letter in her hand and tears running down her face. As the sun started to light up the darkness, Corey realized that he had fallen asleep. He also realized that he would now have to figure out his next move. Cold and hungry, he stood to stretch. Stepping out from the trees, he heard a voice. "Hey, Cor, I was wondering how long you were going to sleep." "Uncle Jeff, what are you doing here?" "You know why I'm here. It was a smart move to slip out at night. If you hadn't propped your bike up, I'd have never found you. Let's get going." "I'm not going with you." "Corey, I'm in no mood for this kind of childish behavior. Grab your bag and let's get out of here." "I'm not going anywhere with you." Corey began to shake uncontrollably. Jeff slapped him across the face and then grabbed him by the arm. "Look, you're coming with me if I have to drag you out of here." Corey broke free from Jeff's grip and ran down the deer trail that led back into the woods. Jeff followed closely behind, screaming obscenities as he went. Not seeing the broken tree limb laying across the trail, Corey tripped and fell. Within seconds, Jeff was standing above him, out of breath. "You stupid kid! What have they done to you? They've turned you against your own family." "You're wrong, Uncle Jeff," Corey said through his tears. "They love me. You were the only one who threw me out. You were the one who turned against his family." Corey could see that Jeff was getting angrier, but he didn't care anymore. He'd had enough. "I can't help it that your life fell apart. You made some stupid decisions, and now you're blaming everyone else." As Corey got up to walk away, he saw Jeff's eyes widen and the large branch he was swinging. The jagged branch plunged into Corey's stomach, just above the navel, knocking him to the ground. The forked end of the branch acted like the talon of a large bird, ripping a 7-inch gash deep into his abdomen as he fell. Corey struggled to stand as his mind slowly processed what had just happened. He felt no pain. He simply looked with disbelief from the reddening trench in his belly to his uncle's emotionless face. Jeff and Corey stared at each other. As blood poured from his wound, the young boy felt his body grow weak, while his eyes asked the question his mouth could no longer form. Why? Corey collapsed to the ground. Holding his bleeding nephew, Jeff began to sob. "You stupid kid! If you'd have just listened to me! Can't you see I needed you to get Judy back? She never forgave me for kicking you out. You were the child we couldn't have. All I wanted was to have a family. Was that too much to ask?" Jeff left the dying boy in the small stand of trees and walked away. The sheriff's deputy pulled into the yard with his lights flashing. Ellen was at the car door before he got out. "Our foster child is missing," she said. "His uncle may have tried to take him." "Is that Jeff Nelson? How did you know?" "Iowa County just sent us a fax on him an hour ago. Seems he beat up his estranged wife, and they figured he was heading up this way." "His bike is gone," Ben shouted as he ran from the barn. "I'll bet he's in the Barrens somewhere." "Unless Jeff has him," Ellen added ominously. "We'll get some people here and start a search. The best thing you can do is to stay here and wait," the deputy said to Ellen. "There's no way I'm sitting around here while that boy is out there somewhere." Wendy and Steve pulled into the driveway. Steve jumped out and ran over to where Ben and Ellen were talking to the deputy. "We were listening for our birds when we saw the squad car come screaming past. Is everyone all right?" "Corey's gone. His uncle may have grabbed him," Ben said. "We drove past his bike a half hour ago," Wendy said, running up to join the others. "Where did you see it?" the deputy asked. "Where it always is, by the big sign," Steve said. "We thought it was a little strange because you guys would never let him out there this early, and he treats that bike like it was made of gold, so we knew he wouldn't have forgotten it." Another squad car pulled into the driveway. The deputy talked to the officer briefly, and then the car drove away. "He's going to look around in the Barrens. Maybe he can find something." "Unless he knows his way around, he's not going to find much," Wendy said. "It's a huge place, and nobody knows it better than Corey." "Standing around here isn't going to help. Let's get over there and find the boy," Ben said, trying to hide his fear. By the time everyone arrived at the sign, 8 local dairy farmers, crammed into 2 rusty pickup trucks, joined the squad cars. In a farming community, news travels fast, and people don't ask if you need help. They just show up. Steve closed up his cellular phone as he walked over to Ben. "I called Spider. He's going to get his crew in the air as fast as he can." 10 minutes later, 3 yellow crop dusters were buzzing the Barrens at treetop level. Ellen walked over to the bicycle, found Corey's note, and began to cry. Ben held her tightly. This scene was all too familiar. Losing a child once is more than most people ever experience. Enduring the loss a second time would be unimaginably devastating. A deputy walked quickly over to them and said, "We caught Jeff. They've got him in the back of a squad car and are questioning him." "Did he have Corey?" Ellen asked. "Is he all right?" The deputy's hesitation terrified Ellen even more. "What aren't you telling us?" "He didn't have the boy, but he was covered with blood." Ellen closed her eyes and inhaled deeply. "I think you two should go home. We have more than enough help here." The squad car carrying Jeff Nelson stopped in the middle of the dusty road near where they were standing. As a volcanic rage built inside of him, Ben walked over to the open driver's side window. "What have you done with my foster child?" Over the shoulder of the deputy driving the car, Jeff's monstrous voice rang out. "So you're the jerk who ruined my life. I guess it's too bad about that obnoxious kid. You should have let him come with me when you had the chance. Now it's too late. The funny thing is, I'm the one they'll blame for his death." "Get him out of here," shouted Ben as the man's words sunk in. Ellen ran over to her husband. The look on his face told her all she needed to know. She had lost her second son. She put her arms around Ben and held him. "Steve, get over here fast!" Wendy shouted from the Blazer, parked behind a state patrol car. Steve came running, with Ben and Ellen following quickly behind. "It's number 4. Corey's trying to tell us where he is." Steve jumped into the Blazer, threw on the headphones, and began turning the huge antenna sticking out of the roof. "I got the first heading, 135 degrees. Corey is alive and is somewhere in that direction," Steve said, pointing to the southeast. "How far?" a deputy asked. "Can't tell from just one reading. We need at least one more. 2 more would be better." "Got no time for 3. Get me that second one, and fast. From the looks of Jeff's shirt, that kid has lost a lot of blood." The deputy radioed the first heading to Spider as Steve started the car, still wearing the headphones. Wide-eyed and pale-faced, Steve shut the car off and stepped out. "You'd better pray that Spider and the boys find him, because we just lost the signal." Ben and Ellen had been doing nothing but praying. The 3 small planes converged on the area from where the last signal had come. Over and over they flew the heading 2 miles out and returned. The planes were so close to the ground they had to go into steep climbs to avoid hitting trees. "We got him!" shouted a deputy as he stepped from his car. "Spider found him in some trees. There's no way to tell what kind of shape he's in, but we found him." "What are we waiting for? Let's go get him," Ellen said. "You'll never get back there. It's too rough. The hospital in Marshfield had a chopper returning empty. They should be here any minute." As if on cue, the faint, low-pitched drone of the helicopter could be heard. The brightly painted ambulance quickly set down in the open field next to where Corey lay. After what was the longest 5 minutes of their lives, Ben and Ellen heard the news they needed to hear. "He's alive. He's in rough shape, but he's alive." "He's just been moved to the ICU," the doctor said as she walked into the waiting room. "He's a tough little kid, and he's kind of weak, but he's been asking to see you." 2 silent prayers of thanks were said as the Rains hurried to the ICU. Pale and groggy, Corey tried to speak. "I'm sorry." Ellen touched her hand to his lips and said, "Don't try to talk. There will be time for that later. And by the way, you're grounded." Corey smiled and said in a weak voice, "It looks like you finally get to see me wearing pajamas." Ellen laughed. Corey tried to raise his hand to touch her, but didn't have the strength. "How you doing, bud?" Ben asked. Corey looked up at him, struggled to smile, and fell asleep. Maybe we should come back later. As they walked out of the ICU and into the hallway, Ben turned to Ellen and said, "Okay, make a list for me." "Of what?" Ellen asked. "Of all the things you'll need from home." "How do you know I wasn't leaving here without him?" "I figure the kid will be lucky if you let him go on his honeymoon without you." "No chance of that." The next morning, Corey was transferred to a room on the pediatrics ward. Balloons were everywhere. Ellen had asked that people wait a few days before they stopped in to see him. She made one important exception. "Corey, I'd like you to meet Spider. He's the pilot who found you. He saved your life." "Hello, and thank you," Corey said, his voice stronger. "What type of pilot are you?" "I'm a crop duster. I spray the fields near your house. You'd be amazed at what I can see from up there," Spider laughed. Corey turned red. Ellen was confused.